1973. Beef prices spiked 30%. Inflation hit 8.7%. Gas lines around the block. Every evening a mother stood at a cast-iron skillet, browning 1 pound of ground beef, figuring out how to feed 6 people with it. 6 full plates. Enough left for tomorrow. I grew up with DoorDash and a refrigerator that always had something in it. When I read what these families made from almost nothing, I felt something I didn't expect. Respect. 89 cents a pound. 6 people fed for $1.30. A week of meals under $10. They didn't order delivery, they cooked with skill. With the kitchen intelligence that turned 1 pound of beef into 6 meals and a pot of soup on Sunday. Here is what they made, and what it says about us that we have forgotten. Meal 1. Hamburger gravy over mashed potatoes. 1 pound of ground beef, browned until the fat renders. Flour stirred into that same fat. Milk added slowly until it thickens into a rich, peppery gravy. Ladled over buttery mashed potatoes. $1.30. Fed 6 people, full plates. This was not poor food. This was survival made comforting. A mother turning scarcity into warmth. The cast-iron skillet doing what cast iron always does, building flavor from almost nothing. Today the same meal costs $8 to $10. The real cost hasn't changed much relative to wages. What changed is that we forgot how to make it and replaced it with $12 delivery fees on top of $12 food. Meal 2. American goulash. Ground beef, onions, elbow macaroni, canned tomatoes, whatever the fridge had. 1 pan, 20 minutes. Its genius was adaptability. Payday far away, more pasta, less beef. Times slightly better, cheese on top. 1 pound of beef became a pot that fed an entire family. Before the boxed meal industry convinced families they needed a corporation's permission to make dinner, this was the homemade version. It was better. It cost less. It required skill instead of instructions. Meal 3. Beef and cabbage skillet. Cabbage. 12 cents a pound in 1973. When meat was expensive, cabbage did the heavy lifting. Less than a full pound of beef browned with onions. Cabbage thrown in to cook down in the drippings, turning soft, sweet, satisfying. The smell of cabbage steaming in beef fat on a Tuesday evening was not romantic. It was strategic. A family eating well on almost nothing because the woman at the stove understood how fat and heat and time could transform the cheapest ingredients into something genuinely nourishing. That understanding is largely gone. We replaced it with the assumption that cheap food means fast food. It never did. It meant skilled food. These meals are not being remembered because they are charming or nostalgic. They are being remembered because the women who made them were doing something genuinely sophisticated that we have lost the language to describe. Building flavor from fat, stretching protein with starch, using heat and time to transform cheap ingredients into complete nutrition. Feeding families well on budgets that should not have been able to feed anyone well. That is not poverty cooking. That is kitchen engineering, practiced every night by women with no culinary training, no food blogs, no cooking shows. They just knew, because their mothers had known. We are the first generation that doesn't. Meal 4. Hamburger soup. 1 pound of beef, onions, carrots, celery, potatoes, frozen vegetables, bouillon cubes. Simmered until everything married. That pot lasted 3 dinners. The broth thickened overnight. It was not just dinner. It was security. The knowledge there would be enough tomorrow. We cook for tonight. Throw away what's left. They cooked for the week. We cook for the moment. And we wonder why food costs more. Meal 5. Tater tot hot dish. 1 pound of beef, 2 cans of mushroom soup, tater tots in neat rows across the top. 8 people, under $3. This meal fed PTA meetings, church suppers, funeral luncheons. It wasn't asked for, it arrived, carried by a neighbor who had made two because one was always for someone else. That culture is gone. We order from apps for ourselves. The tater tot hot dish was not just a meal, it was a social contract. And the contract has expired. Meal 6. Salisbury steak. Ground beef, breadcrumbs, egg, onion. Patties seared until crisp. Rich gravy from the drippings. Mashed potatoes. Under $1. 6 patties. Impressive enough for a birthday dinner. Kids believed they were eating steak. When they learned the truth, the memory didn't lose its shine. It wasn't deception. It was dignity. We eat standing at the counter from a delivery bag and call it dinner. Meal 7. Beef stroganoff, hamburger style. Ground beef, onions, mushroom soup, sour cream, over egg noodles. 20 minutes. Pennies per serving. Today, the same dish is braised short rib stroganoff at $32 a plate. Your grandmother was not making a budget version of a restaurant dish. The restaurant is charging $40 for a version of her Wednesday dinner. That is the direction the borrowing went. Meal 8. Cottage pie. Ground beef, mixed vegetables, gravy. Mashed potatoes across the top, fork tines dragged to make ridges, baked until golden. 1 pound of beef, 6 to 8 people fed. Under $2. They responded to inflation by cooking better. By turning 1 pound of beef into a week's worth of dignity. We have forgotten how to do that. The cost is not just in our grocery bills, it is in our kitchens which have gone quiet, in our tables which have gone empty, in the skill that lived in our mother's hands and now lives nowhere.
I grew up with hamburger helper and delivery apps. Never watched anyone build a meal from almost nothing. What I feel looking at 1973 is not nostalgia. It is respect. For the intelligence that stretched 1 pound of beef into 6 meals. For the dignity that set a proper table on a budget that should not have allowed for one. We face inflation now. We spend more, order more, cook less. Theirs was to cook better. Every meal on this list can be made tonight. The only thing missing is the belief that it is worth doing. They believed it every night while the economy fell apart. Pick one this week. Tell me in the comments. See you in the next one.